Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and introduce myself and I'll pass it off to the other active GSLMU students that we have in the room. And then we will just open the floor for questions and then we'll start from there. Pretty simple. My name is Evan Drucker. I am currently in my last semester of the MBA program here at LMU. So I started in January of 2020 and got 8 weeks of in-person instruction before going to completely virtual. Spent the last, 18 or probably around 16 months online, and then now have been back in person classes for this fall 2021 semester, which feels very good. So happy to be here. I'm also the current vice president of GSLMU, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Maeve, and she will introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Maeve. I'm currently the Chief of Operations or COO of GSLMU, and I'm in my second year of the Higher Education Administration program through the School of Ed. And I've been virtual the whole time as I started in June 2020, right after graduating. So I'm still virtual, hoping to be back in person for next semester. But yeah, and I'll pass it on to Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a second year MBA, and until this semester, I was all online. And yeah, I'm the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer for GSLMU, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. So I think what we'll start with is just a basic overview of what GSLMU really is and kind of where our mission lies. And then we'll basically just open the floor for open questions. If you have questions specific to GSLMU, please feel free. If you have questions just about our experiences as grad students, we're also very happy to speak to that. So don't feel like there's questions that you should avoid asking us. We'd love to give you an accurate, depiction of what it's like to be a student at LMU or be a grad student. But GSLMU as a whole is an entity dedicated to the grad students of our university, both at the Playa Vista campus, the Westchester campus, and then also at the Loyola Law School. We basically service all of our students in that we want to know what our students are needing. We want to know what our students are anticipating or what they're looking for, maybe the holes that the university is missing in their education and co-curricular experiences. And we aim to just be advocates for the student body. We want to make sure that we're connecting our students as best we can. We also do programming so that we can get all of our students kind of together. We're dipping our toes into that in-person programming once again, which feels really nice. And we're really just there to be advocates for all of the grad students to connect them a little bit more with the university. So that's where we come from. I know we already mentioned our specific roles, so we do want to open it up if anybody has questions regarding any part of the grad experience. If you do have questions about getting involved with GSLMU, please feel free to either unmute yourself. I'm going to unpin the three of us so that we can see everybody's faces again. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak, or if you guys wanted to just use the chat function, also totally fine, go for it.
Okay, I have a question. Does the graduate studies system have scholarships at LMU?
Yes, that is a great question. I know that they, typically speaking, from my understanding, scholarships are available. They are not as available as for the undergrads, and but there are financial aid practices available for the grad students, and I do think that there are some that are specific to each school. So if you are interested in a specific program, I would plan on reaching out to their office and ask them. There's also an office for financial aid that you could also reach out to from LMU in general to ask those questions or for them to give you more specific information. Great question, thank you.
I think you're on mute, Evan.
You would think after months and months and months that I would figure that out. There's the financial aid office's website, so you could always visit them there. They'd be a great resource for you. first stop, and they're going to have more up-to-date answers. It's obviously been a couple of years since I was applying to the program. So is there any other questions?
A lot of times scholarships go by whatever department you're in or college versus the university itself. But the university does send out a lot of stuff from the Office of National, it's OINF or something, but they send out a lot of emails letting you know about various types of scholarship opportunities, and they even kind of tailor it to you, which is pretty nice. So yeah, they definitely let you know what scholarships are out there and available.
Another great resource for looking at scholarships is if you know what program you're interested in applying to, is reaching out to their program director, because I know that the scholarship I have right now is specific to my program, like specifically, like it's not even School of Ed wide, it's just the higher ed students have it, so, or have the opportunity of getting it. So it would be helpful to reach out to the program director if you know what program you're looking into, because they might be able to point you towards that.
Did anybody else have other questions? Student life or specific programs? We do also, as GSLMU, have opportunities for financial aid in certain professional development like facets. So if you guys do end up coming in, make sure that you check out the GSLMU and what offers we have then. Ratio is to out-of-state students. In-state students versus out-of-state students. Madison, can you clarify, you're asking specifically for grad programs or for LMU as a, like in general?
Wait, am I still on mute?
Alessandro, you're not on mute, but I was asking Madison to clarify the question that they had asked in the chat. I can speak to the graduate portion of it. From my understanding, mostly grad programs. Okay. So from my understanding, this is the first time, right? COVID was really the first time that LMU ever offered any sort of online sort of degree. I mean, there were certain classes, I suppose, that you could have taken in some portion online, but the majority of LMU's course offerings, both undergrad and graduate, have predominantly always been in person. So this COVID shift, I think that there were individuals who moved during that, time period, and I think LMU is making case by case exceptions for them. But the intention is, from my understanding, is for LMU to then reestablish that in-person class across the board. So in which case, most students would live in state during their programs. I'm not sure if there's stats on how many of us or how many individuals grew up elsewhere and have recently moved, but as far as current students in their current location, they're, I would say, predominantly, at least in the Southern California area. Alessandro, did you have another question? Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off.
Oh, no.
Back to the out-of-state question, though, I would probably say that there is more out-of-state undergrads than grad students, just because most grad students are commuting. And so unless they're planning on really like moving and settling in this area, it's just a little bit different. But I did start the program out of state technically, knowing that I was going to be moving back to California where I grew up, on purpose. So I don't know, just some added.
I'm also attaching, there's like a facts and figures portion on the LMU website. So if you were interested, I know it's just like kind of interesting to see. They might have more statistics based on that question and just a few others that you might like want to see the stats on or numbers. Is there anything else that we can answer? I know that I'm assuming, because correct me if I'm wrong, this is like a pop into different breakout rooms throughout the like interest portion of the evening. So this might just be one of the rooms that you're able to go to, or maybe one of the rooms that you are planning to go to. There's several that you can. So if there were any other questions that other groups weren't able to answer, or if you were looking to get student input on anything, we're here for you.
I do have one question. Are there also any graduate awards within LMU?
Yes. So LMU does the student leadership or student, what is it, Maeve? SSLAs.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting what the second S is.
Student.
But they do an end of the year leadership award process, and there are graduate students that are recognized. There are also graduate students that are recognized based on different different programs within the specific programs as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are university-wide awards, and then there are ones, like Evan said, that might be more specific to either your college or your program. But there are ones that are specific to graduate students. There are ones that are just university-wide, undergraduate or graduate students. I can drop a link in for, I believe, Student Leadership and Development. They have a list of awards on their site that are just annual ones. I'll drop that in the chat in a minute.
Okay, great. So we've got a handful of questions coming in now. So information about the MBA program. So I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for. I would say if for like general information, make sure to check out the LMU MBA website. There's lots of information there. They also list out the curriculum that you're expected to take. If you take like a full course load, the MBA program is geared to be a 2-year program. So that's kind of what, just basic information about that. But I do want to get more into the second 2 questions, unless I'm not sure if you wanted to send a secondary, like more specific question, happy to answer that. What is it about the LMU that made you decide on choosing their grad program? Maeve, do you want to go ahead and start this one off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was looking for grad programs in the middle of the pandemic. So I was mostly looking in terms of location, knowing that I was going to be moving to LA as like my final destination after being in Oregon for my undergrad. And I knew I was looking in the LA area, so I applied all over, and it was, like the program director and the communication that LMU had. I think that their communication and their willingness to have people constantly emailing me, answering my questions, whether that was from financial aid, from the School of Education, just in general, various different counselors and advisors, people were always very receptive to that. And I found that communication to be better here than at other LA-based schools. And I also found that the scholarship opportunity for grad students, at least in the School of Ed, is all I can speak to, were better for me than for other LA-based schools. Also, the location, although I knew I wanted to be in the LA area, this is closer to me. I'm located in the South Bay, so this is only like a 20-minute drive compared to maybe like a 45-minute drive. But in terms of, the receptivity of everyone and how nice people were and just like willing to help you, I think that's really nice. And I also do like the small atmosphere. It's a small school. My undergrad school was 22,000 students. And so it's like you get kind of, you fall through the cracks or you get kind of lost. You don't really get that like one-on-one help. Whereas here, I feel like I'm on the first name basis with a number of people, and it's easier to make connections and get involved and meet people and stuff like that. So that's why I ended up choosing LMU.
Great. I do want to apologize on behalf of Michelle. She had to run because her class is starting. So that's why she has exited the room. But I can speak to the MBA program and why I decided to do that one. I should acknowledge that I am slightly biased. I did my undergrad degree at LMU, so I already kind of knew what kind of culture I was going to get, what type of experience I was going to get as a student, and that was what made me really look back towards getting my graduate degree here as well. But one standout for the MBA program is that there is a specific international trip that's built into the curriculum. And though I wasn't able to actually travel for it, they were able to kind of connect us with individuals, businesses across the globe that we were able to kind of consult with and help. And that was something that having that added like cultural experience and cultural acknowledgement was really important to me. It felt like it was something that was more applicable. I felt like I wasn't going to go into class and just learn in a classroom. I was going to, you know, apply the skills that we were learning, which was really nice. And then to move on to the campus culture, I think, I personally think that there are a lot of ways to get involved on campus. LMU is kind of the type of school that, like, if you're interested in getting involved, it will find you and you can find it. Like, there are over 200 registered student organizations. A small percentage of them are graduate specific. And if there's not one that you are interested in, you can start your own. So there's definitely so many different opportunities to get involved, be on campus. I think for graduate programs specifically, they are, most of us are commuters. Like, not a lot of us live on campus, though most of us live at least in a somewhat close radius. And so we are on campus. We do run into each other. We do, you know, plan to see each other off of campus, which is nice. And I think that that's definitely something that you get because of the smaller class sizes, because of the friendly atmosphere of the university. So the culture on campus, to me, is exactly what I was looking for. I think that it was definitely something that I valued. I didn't want to just be a number in a huge classroom. Parking on campus can be challenging. There are a lot of students, especially undergrad, they've admitted a ton. So especially in the evenings, I know some of my classmates have a hard time finding parking on campus. Some people choose to park off campus. Some people choose to take public transportation. There are always like dozens of bird scooters now at the back gates of campus. So if you live close enough to do that, it's definitely an option for you. They're not allowed on campus, but you can park them right up into the back gates. So it's definitely, I would not boast that LA has like easy traffic by any stretch. So if you live in, you know, like more than 10 to 15 miles away, it will be kind of a trek for you to get here. But the campus itself is stunning, and it is close to a lot of things. Like, there's, you know, grocery stores and places to eat. If you didn't want to do that on campus, there's tons to do around campus as well.
Campus safety. I've never felt unsafe on campus personally. I went to University of Oregon in Eugene, which is a large public school, kind of like UCLA vibes. And then I went to El Camino for community college, if you're familiar, in Torrance. And those are both like very open public schools. And so there was a sense of kind of knowing that like people who weren't students were going to be on campus with me, and people who were, you know, unregulated, like anyone could kind of show up and walk through. Whereas at LMU, there's this sense of like people have to scan in to get in. Like it's very regulated, especially now with the pandemic. You know, you have to, I think we just started letting non-LMU guests come, but it's very regulated and there's security everywhere, and it's more of a closed environment. So it's not necessarily hard to bring guests in, but it just feels regulated. Like, I feel like all who are there and in the surrounding area are all like students, and it feels really safe. And even the exterior, you know, like off campus, there's like lots of apartments, and there's like Bristol Farms and like, you know, restaurants and things like that. Like, it doesn't feel unsafe to me personally. So definitely a city though. Definitely want to, you know, it's a city environment, so you have to be used to that.
Even the outside, like on the back gates outside of the campus, is still pretty. It's a really nice residential space actually. So that's definitely feel super safe. Not sure. I don't personally know what the PPS credit is. Sorry. Sorry guys, my phone started to ring at me. I'm not sure what that is. Maeve, are you familiar with the PPS credential?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't necessarily have any information I can give you off the top of my head, but I could probably find a link to send you because I'm familiar enough with it. Yeah, let me find something.
Sandra, I saw you come off mute, so if you had something else, feel free, sorry.
Yes, in applying for, another question about the scholarship, but it's in relation to the housing. If I were to go on the if I were to go on the housing on campus as a graduate student, is the cost benefited? Will the costs be covered by the scholarship, or is it a direct fee?
I actually don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. I don't personally have experience with living on campus. I mean, not since my undergrad, I would say. My assumption is that depending on your award amount from whichever scholarship you were getting, it would depend on whether or not there was enough to cover housing and tuition, or just one or the other. I think it kind of was all dependent on the dollar amount, and from what my understanding is. We can also give you student housing information.
Yes, that would be perfect.
I send that to you right now. Able to pay for a parking pass to ensure a spot in a lot. So the way that parking works on campus, Sophia, is you pay for an on-campus, permit so that you can park your car on campus, and then when you come into campus, it's free parking wherever you wanted to park. I will say that, like, it's never to a point of that you won't find any spot on campus. I think the students that I know that struggle to find spots are like circling in the one lot because they don't want to park further from the building that they're going to. And at the end of the day, campus is not that large. Like, I know that I am a person who enjoys to walk, so I take that with a grain of salt. But like, if you can't park in the immediately closest parking lot to your building that you're trying to get to, that's not to say that there's not other spots for you. Recommend if it's cost efficient to live on or off campus as a grad student. I think that it is very dependent on what your situation is. Obviously, LA is an expensive city to live in as well. So I think where you feel most comfortable to live is going to depend on whether or not you feel comfortable to have roommates, or whether or not you feel comfortable, like, if you are needing to have a car and that's an added cost, it's kind of like a cost analysis that you might have to do to understand whether or not it's the right choice for you. I would say there are definitely benefits to living on campus. And I mean, aside from the fact that you can walk wherever you want it to be, but there are options both on and off campus. Student housing actually does have a handful of options that are not located specifically on the Westchester campus. So I know I sent the link already, but if you wanted to check that out, that would be very helpful. Yes, there's a tutoring center on campus called the Academic Resource Center, and they have students that work there. I would assume, I'm not positive, but typically speaking, each department has options for graduate employees as well. So if you were interested in working on campus, you could apply to work there. There are tutors available for all of the classes as well. So if you were interested in, or if you felt like you needed extra help, that there is a tutoring center on campus. I will also say, in like speaking back to Maeve's comment about a small school, all of your professors post office hours on a regular basis. It's required of them to post them in the syllabus. And to me, I've always just used that as my first line of defense of, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me stop in with office hours. That's where it really speaks to, like, your professors know who you are. They're going to recognize you. And I also think it like kind of helps to serve the purpose of also showing them that you care enough to show up to office hours. So there's definitely multiple options for tutoring, both within classes and out of classes. Madison, I personally don't know anybody in the pre-med program at all. I will say my knowledge stops at that there's a brand new, absolutely stunning life science building on campus that is completely dedicated to research. So I know that they are doing very good work there. I personally just don't know anything about it.
I've heard good things peripherally. I mean, I have a friend who's looking into post-bac programs right now, actually, and that's on her radar, along with ones at USC and UCLA. So I feel like if she's comparing it to other competitive institutions, then I feel like it has to be pretty good. But I don't have any like personal experience regarding it. I wish I'd give you more information on that, but as I find out more, I'll be interested to hear about it. And the class format. So I think the class format kind of depends on your program, at least for most programs within the School of Education. It's very much a collaborative, more like Socratic seminar taught class. We're always going into breakout rooms, discussing things in smaller groups, and then coming back out to the larger group. And, you know, just it's a very discussion based. It's a couple of classes that were, you know, lecture heavy, but not so much. It's mostly discussion based. And then in terms of like tests and papers and projects and stuff, there are no tests in my program. I know that's not the same for all School of Ed programs, but at least for the higher ed program, we don't test. It's all papers and like presentations and some group projects and things like that. More practitioner and applied, just because that's the nature of the work that we're going to be doing after having the degree. But I'm sure that, you know, Evan's experiences in the MBA program are very different, so.
Yeah, the classes in my program are very dependent on the subject matter. Obviously, like an accounting class, there needs to be tests. There needs to be ways for them to test to make sure that you're understanding the material. I would say a lot of our classes, though, are very applicable classwork. Anything that you're doing is like directly related to what the specific nature of the course is. There are a lot of lectures, but there are a lot of conversations that are happening, right? We're learning from each other as much as we're learning from the professors, because we're all coming into the program with different work experiences and everything. I would say the MBA program is very heavy on the group project aspect, which is not a bad thing because such is life post MBA. So, but definitely heavy on the group projects. Anyone have one last question before? Yes, the fitness center. So the Burns Recreation Center, I can speak to that because I actually also work on campus and I work under the umbrella of campus recreation. So the Burns Rec Center is located on campus. It is great. I personally think that it is one of the better that I've seen on a college campus, and I recognize that I am biased, but they have a downstairs area with weights. They have a huge weight section, and then they also have a lot of cardio machines in there. Upstairs, they have two different group fitness classes or classrooms. One has cycling bikes, and the other is currently set up for F45. Once you have your membership through the BRC, you don't have to pay for those classes individually. So it's probably the cheapest gym that you can join in the LA area, which is amazing. Right now, it's only open to our current students, and we just this week have reopened it to alumni. Current students, staff, and faculty, I should say. And then we've just recently reopened it to alumni. But it's really great, and they have really inclusive hours. So whether or not you were on campus in the early morning or if you were on campus later in the evening, they have really inclusive hours. So, and they also have an Olympic-sized pool.
I was going to say.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming in today. Obviously, if you have any other questions, feel free. We can send out our GSLMU emails if you wanted to contact us, or we're also on Instagram, shameless plug. Follow the GSLMU LMU Instagram handle to see what we're up to. You guys will start to get a better sense of what we're providing for our student body.
Bye. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you.